Hello and welcome back to the workshop. In today's episode we're going to dive into the insulation process of our teardrop trailer. We're going to show you how we fit the insulation step by step from laminating the layers together to clamping them in place, and you have the fun of counting the clamps that we use. Next we'll get into kerf cutting the insulation to fit around those beautiful curves of the trailer, and don't worry if your insulation installation isn't perfect, we've got an easy fix for that too. After that, we'll apply the final layer of plywood all over the entire shell, prepping it for the outer layer of fiberglass. And as a bonus, we'll be adding a couple more windows, but you'll have to stick around to see where they're going. Now, best of all, we're doing this with simple tools that anyone can get their hands on, proving you don't need big fancy machines and a huge workshop to build your own teardrop trailer. Now, kerf cutting couldn't be easier. You just need a few dimensions. 1, the radius of your curve. 2, the angle of your curve. 3, the thickness of your saw blade. 4, the thickness of the material you're using. 5, the minimum thickness you want to cut through. In our case, that was 3mm. If you put all these measurements into the link I've given you below, it will do all the calculations for you. Then all you need to do is get the track saw out and make some cuts. As you can see, I used just about everything to hand to clamp this insulation down, and then I just left it for 24 hours and let the glue do its magic. Once I was happy with all my kerf cuts, I then worked my way around the trailer and just filled in any panels of insulation that were missing. The next day, after all the glue had dried, I went round with a craft knife and just tidied up all the edges. Just using a couple of sheets of plywood here to evenly spread the pressure over that insulation. Now, I could have built these side panels using my vacuum bagging system, however not everyone's got that available to them, so here I'm just trying to show you different techniques to apply the pressure together to build up these side panels. Now I know that clamping process looks pretty sketchy, but let's face it, we only need light pressure to adhere the polystyrene to the teardrop trailer. Now, just using scraps of wood that we've all got lying around the workshop, you can apply enough pressure to the polystyrene that it's got time to grab to that plywood inner core. Now the PU glue is going to grab within half an hour and it's gone. It's got into all the cells of the polystyrene, it's got into the lignum of the wood, and it's glued. And if you leave the PVA glue 24 hours, so you leave everything clamped up for 24 hours, that's going to be glued as well. Come back the next day, release all the clamps, and there you have it. It's glued. Now, if you're not sure that this sandwich of ply and polystyrene and PVA glue is strong enough, just look down here. I've been standing on this all the time we've been talking. So if you have got anything more than just a few little hairline cracks, now's the time to go around with some expanding foam, just fill in those holes and trim it off afterwards.
So insulation does matter, and so does continuity of insulation. So if you do have any cracks, make sure if it's a big crack, you push that thing in deep and fill it up. If it's just a little crack, just work it along the edge. That stuff's going to get in there really nicely. And if you do manage to spill it and get it all around your crack, leave it there. Don't wipe it around, you're just going to make a mess of that crack. You can always trim it off later.
So now the expanding foam is all dried, all we've got to do is just trim off all the excess. That's fairly easy. It's very satisfying. So that is all the insulation done, all the cracks are filled. Now all I need to do is make a few holes for windows and hatches, and then we're going to apply the last layer of plywood.
I'm just adding a couple of extra layers of plywood here to the top corners of the teardrop trailer. And what this is for is going to become apparent later on in the build.
So there is a lot of glass and light coming in on the other side of the trailer. There's also windows front and back on the trailer, but I thought it'd be really nice to have a couple of portrait windows on this side of the teardrop trailer, and that's going to bring loads of light into the experience of being inside of the teardrop trailer. Something that's really nice when you're inside a camper van or a trailer is the experience of being able to see all around you. So my camper van has panoramic windows, which immerses me into that experience of being out in the wild and camping.
If you've made it this far, well, thank you very much. And in the next video is going to be the full fiberglass lamination process. We're going to go through fiberglass matting, what kind of gel coat, what kind of top coat, and what kind of resin we're going to use. So stick around and we'll see you next time.
Ugh. Bollocks.